Not enough suits. I'm used to giving this in front of a whole array of suits, and it's a bit dry and very textiles and very 5 minutes, so I'm not actually going to give my pitch. I'm going to give something else. Tech Marionette started, if I can get the clicker to work, as a replacement for a change management database, which most of you probably don't know about. It's an incredibly boring landscape. And while we were researching that, we discovered that the person is actually key to most organizations' IT and IT infrastructure. Because your people are linked into everything. Your people work in offices, so you've got access control mechanisms that mean that they get in and out of the office. You've got time tracking software. You've got the fact of whether they're employed or not. They have computers that they sit in that they need to be able to log into, and they've got software that they use, and they've got mobile phones that they use, and the mobile phones have software on them. And there are access control privileges for what they can do on their laptop and what they can do on their computer and what they can do on their mobile phone. And then there's storage that they've got sitting around, so you've got local storage on your machine if you're lucky. Large corporates that we're dealing with have huge amounts of data on these massive network attached storage devices. You've got email. Email is a nightmare. And logging into your email via your laptop, via your desktop, via your phone, via your webmail. Your email may or may not be sitting on the same server that your other data's sitting on. It may be sitting on a server elsewhere in a different room, or indeed elsewhere in the world. And all this gets really, really complicated quite quickly. And this is something that even as startups, you'll notice if you fire up an AWS account, you instantly have something like 15 VPC set up for you, which you don't know about. They're just there, they're all defaults. And then when you fire up a single server on that machine, you've got the server, you've got a hard drive associated with it, you've got a network card associated with it, you've got an IP address, at least one IP address associated with it. You've got security groups associated with it. There's a whole load of stuff for just one thing. And then you multiply that up in large enterprise where you have 60,000 desktops, thousands of servers, machine rooms, comms cabinets that make server rooms look quite small. And we just scale this up for an office. I mean, we're in an office here with I don't know how many people. It's not a big office, but this problem becomes exponentially larger just having those people in it. And then we scale, and our office becomes a global organization, and we have thousands of people. And we end up in a situation, and I'm not kidding here, a situation where you have a large investment bank that has a piece of property in Canary Wharf, and they don't know how many desks are in that property or how many people work in that property. So they have a working from home policy because they're pretty sure they have more people than desks. It's not because they're forward thinking, it's because they don't think they can fit everyone in there. And this is not uncommon. My co-founder and I have been working in London in large financial sectors, and we're seeing this kind of mess at all different levels. And this is not me being negative about the large corporates. It's just a fact of life with business and how business grows. It's organic. You've got acquisitions where different IT systems are coming in. You start upgrading your IT systems, so you've now got new stuff and legacy stuff. Some of the legacy stuff can't be switched off because of reasons and kicks around for ages. Teams do things that are emulating the same thing, and they don't realize until it's too late. So you now have duplicate technology working. So this is where we come in. So good afternoon or good evening. I'm Don Davis. I am the CTO and co-founder of Tech Marionette. And I can go full Silicon Valley and say we're a B2B solo mode SaaS-based company, and we are making the world a better place. But we know that all of these organizations are used to storing their data as tables. Everything is in tables, whether it's spreadsheets, whether it's databases. We live in a tabular world. And that is absolutely wonderful for a certain class of data. It's great for accounts. Wonderful for accounts to store your stuff in tables. But it's not great for all classes of problem. And in fact, the class of problem related around what is my user connected to? What does he own? What does he have access to? Tables are not the right way forward. Because actually what you have is this traversal through a network. How do I follow the links from this person to what they're using. And we can highlight this with something simple, the lever process, and we've had this at a paid proof of concept. You want someone to leave the organization, so that person is ever so quietly removed, but of course we also have to remove their access to their computers and their files, because it would be bad if they could log in and still use them. And we need to remove access to their mobile device or any remote connectivity they've got, and remove access to their email and entry into the office, because it's kind of embarrassing if they rock up the next day and can still get in. And all of this happens generally in a very manual way, where you have a list of things where you've got to check it off and say, right, we've got to revoke their access to the doorway system, we've got to revoke their access to the email, we've got to remove their Office 365 access. Now, we went into a particular company that was doing this in a very manual fashion. Took in data feeds from 8 systems. Very simple data feeds that they were able to provide us with a simple email exchange. And we were able to identify that 2,641 people still had access that they shouldn't be allowed. Now, this is not a giant corporate, this was an SME, and 2,000 plus people still able to access their systems, which was a shock to them. But on top of that, because we also had this data, we were able to turn around and say, okay, well, we can now run a report that says this is who's leaving this week. So now you know what access you need to remove. And then you can double check that on the day. You can run a report on the day, and here is the people that are leaving today. So if it's changed, which it used to quite often, you don't have the problem where you reach the first email and go, oh, I'm getting rid of Chris. Remove all of Chris's access. And then an email two up that says, oh, Chris isn't leaving anymore. Reinstate all of Chris's access. And this happens. So we have taken a world that is spreadsheets and database tables, where data is split by arbitrary means, based on where you kind of find the data, and actually realize that this is linked in much more subtle ways. And it looks a lot more like this. This is one user in a very simple test system. And we feed it into our flagship product called Mycelium, which was picked before the latest version of Star Trek started showing. So yes, sorry, I got a figure on 2,164, there's dyslexia for you, but this was the proof of concept that we did with incorrect permissions and a big shock for their system security. Now, we were doing join the lever mover in that process. We took AD data, we took HR data, and we took data for logins for 6 of their applications, fed it into Mycelium, and pumped out a report. But we can also use that data to look for toxic combinations. So we can turn around and say, what are the job roles that people have, and what application access do they have? And why do you, as a cleaner, have access to our payroll system? And this becomes very, very apparent when you start running these reports. And you can also start slicing and dicing the reports based on location, based on both geographical and office location. We can start looking at potential data leaks. So who has access to things that perhaps they shouldn't have access to? And if we start loading in things like file system data, we can start looking at where files can leak. Now we can start looking at location of data storage, and we can start doing compliance planning, and then we can start doing capacity management and capacity planning, which is what we're doing with a large financial. So, large figure from Gartner, because we're asking people for a lot of money. This was the market value in 2014, and it's a figure that's going up by a lot. So this is how much an average large organization will spend on their IT, upwards of 1 million a year, easily. So we're different. We have a very innovative system that allows us to take data from anywhere, a federated set of data, cleanse it and allow you to search it. And it's SaaS-based, like I said. We're awesome. This dude's a Cambridge graduate. You know me. He knows everyone, Phil Freeborn, in board levels at large banks, which is our target audience. And there's some figures. Whoops. That's the important figure at the bottom. So if you've got that figure, come speak to me. If you haven't, we can chat about the other stuff. It's fine. So I'm him, I'm there.